Hi, good morning, everyone. As a part of Ajara academic webinar session, today we will have the webinar about the best CSSD practices. Myself, I'm Mathew Augustine, Manager Quality, Ajara Hospitals. Let's begin with the CSSD best practices. First, what is Central Sterile Service Department? That is CSSD. It plays a crucial role in maintaining patient safety and ensuring infection control in healthcare facilities. This is a backbone of the hospital because the CSSD provides the sterile instruments for the hospital. It maintains the quality of the hospital and it prevents the hospital acquired infection. The webinar will provide comprehensive understanding of CSSD best practice and NABS standards and key indicators, recent updates enhancing in the efficiency and recent changes in the CSSD practices and how to maintain the CSSD compliance and patient safety. This all included in this webinar. What all are the objectives? Objectives at the end of this webinar, the participants will able to understand the role of significance of CSSD in patient safety and infection control, learn NABS standards for CSSD operations, identify the implement biological and chemical indicators for sterilization validation, explore recent updates in advances in CSSD practices, apply quality monitoring tools and best practices to improve CSSD efficiency. First of all, we need to understand the design of the CSSD and CSSD functions. You can see in the screen, it is a one directional flow that is called unidirectional flow. It helps us to avoid cross contamination. From soiled instruments, it will come in the dirty zone and receiving area is there. After receiving area, once the instruments are received in the CSSD receiving area, we'll go for the disinfection and we will see later on what all are the disinfection process, what all are the recommended solutions we are using in the process of disinfection. Then we'll go for the washing, drying is very important. If it is not drying, there is a chance to get the instrument rusting. And next is examination. Examination means if any instrument is non-functional and if it is needed any repair, and then after it will go for the perfect packing, and then it will go to the autoclave or ETO. That is, the process will undergo, the instrument will undergo the sterilization process. Then that instrument it will go to sterile zone. From the sterile zone, there is a storage. There is a particular temperature we need to maintain in that sterile storage that we'll see later slides, and it will go to the dispatch counter. You can see it is a unidirectional flow. There is no backtracking for the instruments. It is only coming into the one direction, from dirty zone to clean zone, from clean zone to sterile zone and dispatch. This is the ideal design of a CSSD unit. And this is a function also. This is a unidirectional flow. For the better workflow in the CSSD department, we need to divide the CSSD into different zones. As we see in the last slides, we have dirty zone, clean zone, and sterile zone. Next, we'll see some details about the zoning in the CSSD. First, we'll talk about dirty zone. We will give a color coding for the dirty zone is a red. It's a contaminated zone. The soiled instrument is coming from different departments and OTs. It is coming through only dirty zone. Once the instrument is soiled, it will send the CSSD for processing, sterilization process through the dirty zone. There is a receiving area in the dirty zone. The instrument arrives from the various departments and it will be receiving in the received zone, and then there is a register is there, receiving register. We need to maintain the register, and according to that protocol, we receive the soiled instrument and will go for the disinfection process. That instrument will undergo the proper disinfection process according to the manufacturer's instructions and NABH guidelines. We use proper solution. Disinfection is the removal of microorganisms, or not completely removal. It will be reduce the microbial load before the sterilization. So we need to go for the disinfection in the dirt. Then we'll come into the clean zone, that we given color code for the green color code. Sorry. Instruments are cleaned and inspected ensure the functioning. If it is functioning or not, we need to ensure the instrument is functioning. It is in the proper functioning condition. Then we need to go for the washing. It will wash thoroughly, manually or mechanically. We can use mechanical also. The reason mechanical washer came, it is guided by ultrasonic cleaning. Or manual washing, if it is not possible, manual washing also we can go for it. Then after that it will undergo drying process. Instrument should be drying completely and to prevent rusting, and there is no moisture should be remain in the instrument before giving for packing session or examination session. So completely drying is very important to prevent the instrument rusting and damage. So next is the examination, repair and packing. Once after drying, it will complete in the examination and repair packing area. They will inspect, the technician will inspect the condition of the instrument, and then they will, if any repair needed, they repair it, and then it's packed in the sterile wraps. Then sterile zone. The instruments are sterilized in sterile, stored in a storage area. The steps in the sterile zone. What all are the steps we are following in the sterile zone? Sterilization, either autoclaving or ETO. If autoclave, it is a steam-based sterilization, and ETO is a gas-based sterilization. And we need to go for the storage of instruments, and after that it could be dispatched for the different departments. In sterile zone, we need to maintain a particular temperature. The temperature range is 18 degrees Celsius to 23 degrees Celsius. We need to maintain that temperature, and we need to maintain the humidity for the sterile zone less than 60%. Ideal humidity is 56, but we can maintain less than 60%. And we need to maintain a air pressure 2.4 pascals. This is the ideal pressure, temperature and humidity we need to maintain in this sterile zone. Then what is the understanding of what is a flow? What is a unidirectional flow concept? What is the meaning of unidirectional flow? What is the importance of unidirectional flow in the CSSD? Unidirectional flow, nothing. It is refers to one-way movement to prevent the cross contamination from dirty zone to clean zone. Finally, it will reach into sterile zone. There is no go back of instruments in that flow. It's a flow in one direction only. That concept is called unidirectional flow. This flow is essential for maintaining sterile environment and preventing cross contamination. If it is, we will go backtracking, it will leads to cross contamination. So we need to follow the unidirectional flow. Now backtracking, instruments do not move backwards. Example, from clean to dirty zones. There is no backward movement. Then physical separation. These zones are physically separated to avoid cross contamination. It should be physically separated. We need to give a proper color coding. We need to give a physical separation for these zones to avoid backward flow and cross contamination. Then workflow. Workflow is, we already discussed what is a workflow. From the instruments coming from various departments through the dirty corridor or dirty zone. Then there is a receiving area. The instruments is received in the receiving area of dirty zone, and then it will move to clean zone for the washing and drying, and then finally come into the sterilization process and storage and dispatch area. Then what is the importance? We already discussed some points to prevent infection. That is one of the main importance for the unidirectional flow. It reduces the risk of hospital-acquired infections highest. Then ensures sterility of the instruments. The instrument should be remain sterile until use. Once the instrument is ready to use, then we will, if it is go back to that dirty zone, it is considered as contaminated instruments. So there is no backward flow. You need to maintain the sterility in the unidirectional flow. This is the one of the importance for this unidirectional flow CSSD. Then efficiency and compliance. These are the some importance of unidirectional flow. Then Now we'll look into some NABH standards for CSSD. What NABH is recommended? What all are the recommended standards for CSSD operations? NABH always ensure the quality and excellence. So there is certain standards to follow to maintain this compliance and excellence. And we need to have the proper SOP, standard operating procedure. Then documentation in the CSSD, that is one other important thing. We need to, there is 3-4 registers need to maintain: receiving register, dispatch register, then instrument examination register, then recall register. Certain registers we need to maintain in the CSSD to maintain the proper functioning of the CSSD department. And we need to have the proper SOP for the cleaning process, disinfection, packing, sterilization, storage, and biological indicators. We need to have the proper SOP for the functioning. Then staff training and competency, we need to have the periodic training, skill assessment, and every yearly CSSD staff needs to undergo the proper training, and they need to know the recent advancement in the CSSD practices, and they need, their competency level should be as par with the standards. Then sterilization and disinfection compliance. So we need to update our knowledge regarding the disinfection process and sterilization process, autoclaving, recent changes we need to undergo with the evidence-based practice. These all are NABH, including NABH standards, and to maintain the standard CSSD operations. Then we need to maintain some quality indicators. We need to monitor biological and chemical indicators, and turnaround time is very important. We need to maintain a book for the TAT, or it is online also acceptable. Then we need to follow some safety measures that all the staff working in the CSSD should wear the PPE. One that is important, it prevents the infection. Maintain the calibration of sterilization equipment. That is a periodic maintenance and annual maintenance also needed for the CSSD autoclaving machine, and all the machines used in the CSSD, it should be calibration and annual maintenance required. Then documentation and regular audits. Regular audits and documentation will help us to identify the gaps and process deviation. Then what is the importance to use PPE in the CSSD department? It is very important to minimize the exposure to the hazards to the healthcare professionals and avoid the serious injuries and illness. So all staff needs to wear the PPE while they are working in the CSSD and handling the soiled instrument in washing and disinfection process. And it helps us to reduce the spread of infection, provides protection against hazards, and promote good hygiene, and encourage the safety in the workplace, and protect you and those around in the CSSD. This is some collection, various department CSSD, where that soil instrument is coming from various department, from OPD, IPD, labor room, different nursing units, cath lab, OT, and all other departments. Wherever the instrument is used, it all will come into the CSSD for the sterilization and disinfection process. Infection control practices. Infection control and CSSD, we can say this is the backbone of the hospital. If we supply good quality and sterile equipment, we can minimize the healthcare associated infection, especially surgical site infections. So to follow the proper infection control practices, basic step is hand hygiene. Hand hygiene is most important before and after sterilization of equipment, before touching the equipment, and we need to follow the 5 moments of hand hygiene. Hand hygiene is the best tool to prevent the hospital acquired infection. To wear the mask and eye protection, and handling sharps and needles, blades very carefully, and sterilization and disinfection of surgical equipment and device must be according to the hospital policy and SOPs. Then we'll move on to instrument identification and handling. Before packing, we need to identify instrument is cleaned properly, dried, and it undergo all the process before coming into the package. What all are the process we are following before packing? One is receiving, then it will go for the disinfection, and then it will go for the washing, drying, and examination. And if it is any repair needed, it will go for the repair. This process we need to ensure before packing. Then if any damage or rust we need to identify, then cutting edges of sharp should be noticed if it is we can use it or not. And if any repair, we already mentioned, if it is needs repair, we need to go for the repair. And delicate, the sharp instruments are protected while being handled, assembled for the sterilization. What all are the delicate instruments means? Using in the laparoscopic surgery, endoscopy, it is sensitized to heat, that is called delicate equipments. Many use of special holders, tips, guards, or any form sleeves, but tip protectors should be sterile. And absorbent material may be placed in the trays to help facilitate drying. And wrapped basin set should not be exceed more than 3 kg. It will affect the sterilization process. So instruments cleaning involves dissolving and removing. If any biological products like blood, tissues, mucus, we need to remove it before going for washing. And we'll move into the what all are the biological and chemical indicators used in the CSSD. We need to use high quality biological and chemical indicators to check the validation of sterilization process. This is the one kind of type 1 indicator. It's a tape or label. Before sterilization, that lines should be white, and after sterilization it turns to black. It indicates the appropriate sterilization and the instrument underwent the proper sterilization process. This is the type 1 indicator. And type 2 indicator, bovidic testing is done daily. Pre-vacuum sterilizers before the first load, put it in the machine. So this is unprocessed. It is completely yellow in color, and if it is passed, sterilization is in a proper, it turns to black, and if it is in the dual color, the sterilization process is failed. This is the one of the indicator for the validation. And chemical indicators type 3, 4, and 6 are placed inside the package to monitor this is the type 4 package before the sterilization. This is for the steam sterilization. Steam sterilization, before sterilization, the indicator is in pink in color. After sterilization, it turns into the black. This indicator can be used in both steam and ETO also. ETO sterilization indicator before sterilization is green in color, and it will turn to blue in color, and after sterilization it turns into green. With this we can identify the validation of ETO. Then biological indicators helps to monitor whether the necessary conditions were met to kill the specified number of microorganisms for given sterilization process. This indicators will help us to validity of sterilization. And weekly ones, we need to go for BI, PCD, biological indicator process challenge device test, that is type 5 indicator. And according to this test, the expiry date of the sterile item is, we are putting the sterile expiry date of sterile item according to this indicator checking. CSSD storage area specification. We already mentioned that storage area, the temperature should be less than 25 degrees Celsius, and sterile items are stored at least 20 to 25 centimeter above the floor to prevent the contamination, and below the ceiling, and at least 5 centimeter from the outside the wall. This is some standards we need to maintain in the storage area. Sterile items are stored in designated places. Then communication between the OT staff, ward staff and CSSD staff is very important for the proper sterilization supply and receiving the equipment. Appropriate maintenance is needed. Then coordination between CSSD staff is very important to flow of equipments, and it should be in the unidirectional flow. Then we'll move on to what all are the recent updates in the CSSD practices. There is recent updates came in advanced sterilization technique, low temperature sterilization using hydrogen peroxide plasma, and another use of ozone sterilization and plastic acid sterilization for the heat sensitive instruments. And automation in the CSSD, that is automation process, also recently launched the integration of robotic system for the packing and sterilization. There is no manual packing system, and we can avoid the contamination by manual packing. So robotic packing system also one of the recent practice. Use of RFID, radio frequency identification, before packing, tracking the instruments, and improved quality indicators. Adaptation of advanced biological indicator system, it will improve the quality and monitor the validation of the sterilization process. Then sustainability in the CSSD, environmental friendly sterilization technique with reduced energy consumption. Minimize the water wastage. We need to promote minimize the water wastage, and washing area we need to use minimal water for the washing. Then digital documentation. If we will turn into the digital documentation, it will help the tracking, and it helps us to maintain the quality and leads to better outcome. And some of the best practice in the CSSD validation and sterilization process, we need to use specific biological and chemical indicators just for the validation of sterilization process, and equipment maintenance, periodic maintenance, preventive maintenance, and annual maintenance also needed for this CSSD equipments. Then standardized workflow. We need to establish a proper workflow in the CSSD and follow the SOP. That is very important in the CSSD. Then decontamination of the zones, cleaning and washing soiled instrument, sterilization zone need to be inspect regularly, and storage zone also inspect regularly for the complaints. Then staff competencies. CSSD staff should be updated for the recent practices and evidence-based practices, and handling equipment and infection control practices. So the staff should undergo regular training for the competency, and it helps us to maintain the best practice in the CSSD department. Then we need to have the track and record keeping. We need to maintain various records in the CSSD department, and high case investigations also we need. If any instrument is failed for the sterilization, there is a recall register also we need to maintain. All these registers will help us to maintain the quality in the department. Then we need to follow the NABH standards and CDC guidelines. What all are the protocols and guidelines we are following in the hospital, we need to stick on that protocols. Then we need to prepare for any emergency, check the expiry date, and for the sterilized tray and bins, and flash steam sterilization and wrapped object at 132 degrees Celsius for 8 minutes at 27 to 28 lbs of pressure in the gravity displacement sterilizer. prepared for emergency cases such as RTA, LSES, and any other emergency cases, neurosurgeries. We need to prepare for the emergency, and equipment should be, so instruments should be ready. And keep things autoclaved for the emergency use. We need to maintain a particular set of instruments for the emergency purpose. Like, what are the common disinfection solution as per the NABH standards? The common disinfection solution recommended by NABH for the CSSD department disinfection: enzymatic cleaners. It removes the organic debris like blood products, blood, tissue. All these biological products will be cleaned by enzymatic cleaners. Then glutaraldehyde 2%. Percentage is very important. Glutaraldehyde 2% for the heat sensitive instruments, used for the heat sensitive instruments. And hydrogen peroxide and paracentric acid, effective sterilization and disinfection for the low temperature sterilization. Then sodium hypochlorite 1% to surface disinfection, and alcohol based solution 70 to 80% ethanol based solution used for rapid disinfection of small surface instruments. All these disinfection solution recommended percentage we need to maintain. The percentage, always check the percentage of the disinfectant solution. It will maintain the compliance of the disinfection. Then some take-home points: compliance with NABH standards. We need to follow all the protocols and standards as per the hospital and NABH standards or any accreditation agency in the hospital standards. And importance of biological and chemical indicators. Regularly we need to use these indicators, and validation and effectiveness of sterilization process. Then we need to adapt recent technologies. And staff training and competency is very important. Staff should undergo regular training, and periodic training also staff should undergo. And we need to focus on sustainability of the unit. Then CSSD practice is very crucial in the hospital. It leads to patient safety and quality of the patient care. And better CSSD practices, it leads to prevent around 80% of healthcare associated infections. So better CSSD practice is important in the hospital settings. Thank you. Sterilized protection, appreciated for excellence.